Hey guys, today we're going to be taking a look at Jeanne, aka Joan of Arc, aka Ruler in Fate Grand Order, her stats, how to use her, and just an overall analysis on how good she is. It was a close matchup between Joan and Waver as to who would be the next servant I would cover, but Joan did win out, and she has a large number of fans. A lot of you guys love her, and I love her too. Plus, with her role in Apocrypha, I figure now's the best time to cover her. I also did another video on the highly requested servant, Emiya, and I'll link that in the description below, so be sure to check that out. So remember guys, I grade servants on a scale between D and S, with D being the worst and not worth investing in, B being average, and S being game-breakingly good. So without further ado, let's just get into it. Joan is the only ruler class servant out at release, meaning she resists damage from all other classes except Berserker, and one as of yet unreleased class, which we will get into much later. On top of the resistance that she has to all classes, she also has the highest HP in the game at an incredible 16,500. No other servant in the game even breaks the 16k mark, not even in the Japanese version. And in fact, if you ascend her past 90 up to 100 using the Grails, and then feed her the maximum amount of hero crystals, she can break 20,000 HP, which is just kind of ridiculous. But unfortunately, her attack compensates for this, as she has an incredibly low 9,593 attack. There's only one 5-star with lower attack than that, and there's actually plenty of 4-stars even that have higher attack than her. For skills, she has Revelation A, which generates between 3 to 9 crit stars per turn for 3 turns. True Name Revelation B, which decreases enemy Noble Phantasm damage between 15 to 30%, and Divine Judgment A, which has between 70 to 120% chance to stun an enemy servant. Her only passive is Magic Resistance X, which increases debuff resistance by 25%, which is more significant than any other magic resist skills, but overall still not worth all that much, especially considering her Noble Phantasm removes debuffs anyway. For her deck and Noble Phantasm, Joan has QAAB, similar to Emiya, which is Quick, 3 Arts, and Buster, along with an Arts Noble Phantasm, so hers actually matches. Her Noble Phantasm doesn't deal any damage, and it's entirely support based. It makes all her allies invincible, increases defense to all allies, restores their HP between 1 to 3,000 for 2 turns, and it also inflicts stun on her for 2 turns. But it can be upgraded via an interlude to remove the stun effect, and then also add an effect that removes all debuffs from all allies. So early on in the game, Joan is a fantastic servant. She's probably the best early game servant you can possibly get. She'll single-handedly steamroll through the vast majority of quests, and because she's a defensive juggernaut with a heal as a Noble Phantasm, which she can charge very easily, she can even take on servants of a higher level quite easily. However, her biggest weakness is just that she was released too early. I mentioned this with Emiya, and it's even more true with Joan. Her skills are useless and don't fit her stats at all, because at release the developers did not know how to properly balance the servants, and they ended up underpowering a lot of them. No servant suffers more from this underpowering and this power creep that's going to come up than Joan, and she falls off incredibly hard, like a brick, the later you get into the game. The main reason comes down to skills. Revelation is useless and not worth putting anything in because it gives a minuscule amount of crit stars, and in fact there is a craft essence coming out soon that is essentially just a straight up better version of this skill. True Revelation is flat out useless because even with a 30% damage debuff, most enemies late game will still just one-shot you with a Noble Phantasm, and there's even a servant that has a way better version of this skill that also buffs their Noble Phantasm. Her stun is decent, but the percent chance can be misleading because even at 100% it can still miss depending on magic resistances or enemy buffs, and her skills are just overall useless. They're inferior to skills and craft essences that come out later on, and even on their own they aren't that great and just don't synergize with her role as a support much at all. Even her Noble Phantasm gets power creeped, as there's a servant later on who has her Noble Phantasm in the form of a skill. They can literally make the whole team invincible as a skill. So her deck is good though because it It's all arts, meaning she can charge Noble Phantasms quickly, but just be aware, her Noble Phantasm and skills will get heavily power creep into the point of oblivion soon. Joan, like Saber, fits into many different teams. She's a strong support with an arts deck that can quickly charge pretty much anyone's Noble Phantasm. In particular, she's also good at babysitting, so babysitting berserkers and keeping them alive. She pairs extremely well with Herc or Vlad in that regard, especially Vlad, since he's an arts-focused berserker, and she can help him charge his Noble Phantasm much faster. She doesn't really hurt any team that she's on. She can round out your team with a much needed defense. Put her on an arts team with Media and Emiya for Noble Phantasm spamming. Pair her with a carry like Saber or Gil to keep them alive. Use her as a babysitter or use her as an art support. It's your choice. As far as craft essences is concerned, go with Formal Craft for the sustained fights just to max out her damage over time. Or give her a Kaleidoscope if you're doing a one-wave boss fight and you just want to charge your Noble Phantasm really quick and just save it for the right moment. Overall, Joan is fantastic early but falls off hard late game. Even as a full-on tank, she isn't the best because she can't make use of her health with her skills. She has no taunt, she has no defense up for her allies, she has no targetable invincibility skill, and to be honest, HP and attack are not equal. High HP is not as good as high attack. The later you get into the game, the more important it becomes to deal more damage, and the less important it becomes to have high HP. The self-stun on her Noble Phantasm prior to the interlude really sucks, and it will come back and bite you. There have been plenty of times where I've used her Noble Phantasm and then my next hand is nothing but 4 or 5 Joan cards and I basically had to skip a turn. She desperately needs her skills reworked. Maybe she can get some interludes or strengthening quests so that she might be able to compete with some of the top tier supports. But prior to her interlude, she's a C-, and afterwards she's a solid C+. If it's any consolation though, she is, in my opinion, the best ruler, which granted doesn't speak very highly of that class, but she's the best you can get in my opinion, even in the Japanese version, and she's an absolute lifesaver in most events, especially anything that requires stalling out the opponent. But you can only get so far when you don't have any good skills, and that is her #1 problem. She has no good skills. If you have her, I would say invest in her. She's worth it, and you won't regret it because she does come in clutch sometimes. But overall, on the whole, there are just way better supports as the game goes on. Well, that's Joan, so let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and if you enjoyed the video, just leave a like, and consider subscribing for more Fate Grand Order content just like this one. I'll be uploading Fate Grand Order videos every Saturday going forward, so stay tuned to that. And check out the Emiya Servant Spotlight as well, I'll link in the description below. And just let me know who you guys want to see most in the next Servant Spotlight. So until next time guys, later.